Back in London, Ontario, I was raised by a single mother, a very strong, wonderful woman named Elaine Thompson. Give it up for single mother, Drew. We didn't have much money. We lived with my grandparents across the street from Westmount Mall. Anybody ever been to Westmount Mall? All right, a couple of liars here. That's good. Westmount Mall had its elders, and I used to go there with my mom, and I used to ask for lots of stuff, and she would say, "We can't afford it. We cannot afford it." And then eventually she would say, "Okay, just pick something a little bit smaller," and then I would go pick out a toy, and she'd put it in her purse, and we'd walk out of the store. It took me a long time to realize we were thieves. And it was great. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to shut up Drew Thompson. This song's called Baby Bird. It's about shoplifting with your mom. I used to be a gold prospector up in Northern Ontario. Anybody know what that means? I used to go out in the bush. And I worked with a guy up there named Manslaughter Mark. He went to jail for manslaughter 2 different times in his life. Manslaughter Mark. And when rep was really high, because the gold mines were in production, Mark used to walk down the street and he'd smash out car windows until the cops picked him up. And he'd say, I'm going to jail for 6 months. It's free rent, free food. And I went, Mark, you might be a genius. But the whole time he would do this, I was up there for 6 years, and the entire time he was engaged. And I said, Mark, how do you keep this going when you're in jail half the year? And he looked at me like I was an idiot, and he said, Drew, it's called love. And I went, manslaughter, Mark, you son of a bitch. You are a sweetheart. This song's about love, it's called Leash.